interesting to think about. And that was kind of leading me into another question I had for you is what is when it comes to writing music, your own music, what is your process like today compared to what your process was like, say, 30 years ago?
Well, I don't really think it's changed that much.
If it's changed at all.
I don't think it's changed. I've always been a guy who I had a really good instructor in college who was a good writer himself, and he was always talking about the value of writing in real time as opposed to stop time, as opposed to, I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen stop motion films like Fantastic Mr. Fox. That's also one of my favorite movies. I love Wes Anderson. So when you get into that kind of writing where time is stopped and you're going, well, should I make this chord an A minor 7 or should it be C minor 7 or blah, blah, blah. You can spend an hour making decisions that for the listener that's going to go by in a half a second. So I've really always tried to think of my music in real time as the listener hears it, and not get too bogged down in stop time writing. So of course, the first thing that I'm going to have to make a decision about when I write a tune is what's the feel, what's the groove, what's the tempo, because that's going to dictate everything else. So I'm going to come up first with some kind of a drum loop that has the feel I want, close to the tempo that I want. And then I know this is going to sound weird, but I've written whole tunes just singing in a microphone over that loop, just singing rhythms in a microphone over the loop. Just ba-da, ba-do-da-da-do-da, da-da-da-da-do-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da, just like that, just using my voice. I might have a little motif. Da-do-da, ba-do-do-do-da, da-da-da-da-do-da, da-da-do-da-da-da-do-da, da-da-da-da-da-do-da, right? Just some little motif like that. And that turns into a tune. And then later I'll go back and find notes and chords for those rhythms. So sort of like the song was written right from my brain into the computer, into the tape machine. The most important part of the song, which is the rhythmic, sort of the rhythmic framework of the song, which is the most important thing about music, is its rhythmic framework, So if I'm lucky, if I'm having a good day, I can do that on the guitar as well. I can just improvise. I'm not the greatest chord melody player in the world, but I can, if the song's not real fast, I can play chords and melodies on my guitar and listen back to it and pick the parts I like and throw away the parts I don't. But the cool thing is that it was written in real time. It was written the way the people are going to hear it.
So that it doesn't sound like it was Frankensteined into a tune.
Kind of, yeah. And of course, there's going to be those moments where I can't do that, and I'm going to have to stop and go, maybe I should choose this chord or that chord. I'm not saying there's never going to be those moments, because of course there are. There's going to be many of them. But the main ideas and the main, construction process is done in real time as the music is going, either by jamming along with the drum loop or by singing along with the drum loop.
And you ever have a dream of a whole tune?
No, I haven't, but I definitely have dreamed sections, and woke up in the morning and go, especially when I'm doing it every single day and all night long, and you can't help but think of it in your sleep. It just happens. And you wake up with an idea and you go run in your room. Oh, I don't want to forget this. And on lucky days, it works. So, that's kind of been my process. Then a lot of times, one of the things that also really helps me is I write with very simple chords, because the less notes you have in a chord, the more possibilities of bass notes under that chord. So if you've only got a 3-note chord, like say if you've got an F, a C, and a B flat, just a sus chord, right? There's tons of bass notes that can go under that chord. So once those chords are on tape or on disc, I can just play around on the keyboard totally by ear with bass notes. And sometimes I come up with these bass lines that are really cool that make those chords different than the way I heard them when I put it down there. You know, so like an F and a C and a B flat. Well, with an F under it, it's just an F sus chord, right? But with a G flat under it, it's a G flat major 7.
Right.
You know, so there's all kinds of possibilities, you know, and you don't necessarily need to know what you're doing. You can just sort of mess around with a keyboard with a bass sound and come up with all kinds of harmony just by ear.
What about an A under it?
So I do that. Let's see, A under that. Then you would have like well, A wouldn't really work that well.
It'd be a weird chord.
But I'm trying to look, but A flat would be cool.
Like that would just be kind of major,
because you'd have like an A flat 6 kind of chord, A flat major 6. You know, so yeah, I mean, just there's so many possibilities. So I think about that. I use that kind of thing a lot, you know. So what's one of my favorites? If you had I'm just trying to think, like say if you had a G sus and you put an E under it, you've got like a minor 7 sharp 5, which is a great sound. You know, that kind of those kind of sounds I use a lot. You know, so it's infinite, really. I mean, when you have some chords and melody that you're messing around with, it's mind-boggling when you change the bass, how you change the whole feeling of the tune in the harmony, and not just a bass root, but lines. Because I kind of like busy bass. You know, like I've listened all my life to funk music. So the bass is kind of active down there. It's not just playing roots. You know, there's lines being played. Like if you listen to Weather Report, all those great lines that Jocko played under the music, you know, a lot of those lines, you know, a lot of people think he was improvising, but a lot of those lines are written by Joe in his music and by Wayne. You know, those bass lines are written out and they're very cool. And if you listen to classical music, the bass line is very active.
Yeah.
And I like that in my music too.